This lesson focuses on something called an alibi. In a mystery investigation, the crime solver talks to the different suspects about whether they committed the crime. And crime solvers often come out and ask the suspects directly, "Did you commit the crime?" And at that point, the suspect gives the crime solver an alibi. An alibi is the suspect's explanation of why they could not have committed the crime. In Chase Against Time, Chase was investigating Amy Simmons. And he said, "Amy, the cello was stolen earlier this morning, and I think you did it." And then Amy gave Chase her alibi. She said, "Chase, I could not have committed the crime because look at me. I'm too small and I'm too light to lift the cello out of the display case and carry it off somewhere without being noticed." Now, right away, Chase realized that her alibi was the truth. He could rule her out as a suspect right on the spot because he figured, yeah, she's right. She is too light and small to have carried the cello out of the display case. Now, sometimes a crime solver cannot rule the suspect out right away. The crime solver needs to go check the alibi, or they need to see if the alibi checks out. That's a common expression. So let's pretend that we're investigating Jennifer. And Jennifer says, "Well, no, I did not commit the crime at 10 in the morning because I was in the nurse's office at 10 in the morning." Well, we don't know whether that's true or not. So we would need to go to talk to the nurse. And if the nurse says, "Oh, she's right, she was in here at 10 o'clock," then we could rule her out as a suspect. So if we check the alibi and it turns out to be correct, we can rule that suspect out. If you ever watch TV shows or movies with detectives or police officers, many times they make phone calls or they visit people to check out the alibis of suspects. And again, if the alibis are truthful, then they can be ruled out. But sometimes we can put situations in our book that are much more interesting. Sometimes the suspects can lie, where we could say, "Where were you at 5 o'clock in the afternoon?" And the suspect could say, "Well, I was at work," when they really weren't at work. They could have been out committing the crime, but they're lying to the crime solver to protect themselves. So they give what's called a false alibi. So maybe in your mystery book, you can have the crime solver investigate a suspect, and it turns out the suspect's guilty, but the suspect makes up an alibi and gives false information to the crime solver. Now, once the crime solver finds out that this is a lie, the crime solver becomes even more suspicious of the suspect. The investigation continues, and the plot thickens. There's more suspense, there's more drama, and that's what we want. We want a lot of drama and tension and suspense. The other interesting situation you might want to put into your mystery is to have one person give an alibi, not for themselves, but one person can offer an alibi for another person. So if I say, "Oh, Vanessa didn't steal the cupcakes from the cafeteria because she was with me in the library at the time." And if that happens, you don't know whether I'm telling the truth or maybe I'm lying to protect my friend. And having one person offer an alibi for someone else is a very interesting thing to do in your mystery because it adds drama, it adds suspense, it adds uncertainty. The reader doesn't know what to believe, and it creates some interesting dynamics between the characters. So right now, use the handout that I gave you for this lesson, or you can use your chart, but whichever you do, be sure you're looking at the chart and you have the column called Ruled Out. That's where you have written down how each character will be ruled out. And if you can think of something to do with alibis, or if you decide to have something to do with an alibi in your story, you can go ahead and write it either directly on the chart, right next to the part where you explained how the character is going to be ruled out, or you can do it on the handouts. And again, it's one of those things that's not that easy to do. So do the best you can. If you can do it, great. If you want to put that aside and keep thinking about it for now, that's fine. And maybe when you go start your drafting later on, if you have an idea about how you can use alibis, it's an advanced thing to do, and it adds a lot of mystery and interest to your story.